It's January, so there's no need to stress. Today we're making a warm, budget-friendly meal that is sure to impress. Alright everyone, so today we're making chicken pot pie. So you're going to grab some chicken broth as well as your favorite vegetables that you'll want inside of the pot pie. Your favorite protein, I grabbed cooked chicken, make sure your protein is cooked. And then you're going to grab your favorite creamy soup. I chose cream of chicken. All of the alternatives that you can use will be listed down below, along with any modifications you might want to add yourself. So then you're going to chop up anything else you want to add. I chopped up onions, and I also grabbed some seasonings, which will be listed in the description section below as well. However, I do recommend you grabbing however many seasonings will be according to your liking and your preference. So if you are using chicken, you're going to make sure it's finely chopped so that it's not distributed into the pie, unless you like chunky chicken. And for the purposes of serving portions, I only used 1 can this time because that was all I had. So to make it evenly distributed, I just went ahead and mashed this to the 12th power. But again, you can do it how you want to do it. That's the fun thing about pot pies. You can pretty much use what you have on hand, which is what January is about in the first place, and you can make it your own. Now, what I will suggest is if you use another protein, like for instance, I know this is chicken pot pie, but if you're using a meat alternative, I will suggest that you use something like, for instance, if you're using turkey or even like some kind of like hamburger, just make sure that you adjust accordingly when it comes to your seasonings, because you don't want your food to be over salty or under flavored. And then I do recommend you doing the seasonings before you add in the soup, which is what I'm doing here, because it'll give the meat flavor. Now, moment of confession. I think cream of chicken soup and cream of celery soup, which I've made with this before, are both very yummy, but the texture kind of makes me like feel creeped out a little bit. So although the video is sped up, I assure you that I quickly added it in because it just looks funny to me. So I don't know, I just figured I'd share that with you guys. So anyway, you're gonna go ahead and get that evenly distributed, and we're gonna go ahead and transfer it to the pan that we're gonna bake everything in. And honestly, this could be considered a one pot meal. I don't know why I made it in I guess because I was chopping the chicken up in it. So, but yeah, you can do all of that in one pan. So that's another convenience with this. It's really easy and cost saving and even time saving, really. So there's just, honestly, I love recommending pot pie because there's just like, other than the calories, like there's nothing really bad about it, because it's just so convenient and comforting, and you can even be creative with it. Like some people, I know if you want to add mushrooms or any kind of soup, you can do that too. So here we're going to go ahead and add the rest of the contents in prior to adding the crust on top. And as you can see, it adds a different amount of heartiness to the meal, which is also great, especially when it comes to January and using your pantry items, because you can throw in there whatever you like. And I forgot to mention earlier, I also have celery in there. I just noticed that. But yeah, and there's another thing too. I really enjoy baking desserts and sweets and such, but something about baking dinners and just lunch and just food items that aren't really measurements focused, I just love it because it just allows you to express yourself. For instance, here I'm adding in a cup of chicken broth. However, if you like to have more of a soupy textured pot pie or less of a soupy textured pot pie, feel free to modify that too. I do, however, want to mention that you need to add in some kind of water-based product if you don't opt to go with broth, because you don't want the rest of your ingredients to dry out. Speaking of dry, you're going to go ahead and mix dry ingredients, and here's honestly right there, it's just flour, and then we're going to go ahead and add in the baking powder. So I'm adding in a tablespoon, but if you don't want a thick crust, you can half that to half a tablespoon. But I really like the thick crust, so I went ahead and added in a tablespoon because it's just yummy, and if I'm gonna cheat and use calories, might as well go all the way. So the next thing I'm adding in is a mixture of butter and buttermilk, and you don't have to use buttermilk either, just some kind of some kind of milk. It can even be almond milk, but if you use a dairy-free milk, just be mindful that the texture might be a little different because this milk has a lot of fat in it, so that's why it obviously milks with a lot of fat pair well with baking. So, and I think this is so funny, so I was gonna cut this part out, but I figured why not leave it, because I mean, just why not? Great entertainment. So I forgot to add in the full amount of milk because I'll be honest with y'all, I was like talking when I did this video. I was entertaining, so I was talking and wasn't paying attention to how much milk I added, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't add enough. In this part of the recipe, you kind of want to make sure you get that at least as close to the measurements as possible, because the texture, you want the texture to be right, and you want to make sure it's cooked. So you're gonna go ahead and stir it. Kind of makes you think of like a biscuit mix, because you don't want it to be runny like pancake or waffle mix, but at least make it thick enough. And you don't want it super thick either, but you want it like a creamy texture, like you're doing drop biscuits. I don't know if you guys have ever made that before, but if not, you can definitely look and see. And you're gonna go ahead and add them to the top of the pot pie. So one thing I do, because it's kind of hard to spread, is I add a drop to each corner as much as possible, and then go ahead and spread it to the end so that it has an even spread. And especially since I like mine to be thick, so I go ahead and make sure that I get it to each corner as much as possible. And I just got an idea. Mentioning made me think about the drop biscuits, made me think about Red Lobster. If you guys want a video on that, feel free to let me know in the comment section too. But yeah, so you're gonna go ahead and spread it out. Try to cover the juice. Some of it might show, but still try to make sure every part is covered if you want. Again, it's your pie, do what you please. But I like to make sure I get as much over to the edge as possible. And before you do this part 2, forgot to mention earlier, make sure you go ahead and preheat your oven to 350, because you're going to go ahead and place it in there for about 45 minutes. And my crust, I like my crust to be more on the lighter side, because well, honestly it doesn't matter, but with using real butter, it usually comes out on the lighter side, which you'll see in a moment. But I will say, if you like some more color to your crust, then definitely go ahead and add an egg wash. Beat up 1 egg and add egg wash to the top. So that's it. Very simple. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to leave any comments or questions down below. Thanks again for stopping by. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.